Hi, this is Mike of Nearly Enough Dice, and this is the Kerbal Space Program. I am possibly being a bit silly. By possibly, I mean almost certainly. This is by far and away the biggest thing I've ever launched thus far. In 1.0, I'm not sure if I ever launched anything as big, even in 0.90. It is so big that I'm using twin bores as booster stages. Oh yes. Now what this is, the idea here is to do one of the space tourism contracts with 6 tourists who want to go to the moon, go around the moon, and 2 of them want to do suborbital on the moon. And I'm trying to do it all in one go, like an idiot. So, we have these 2 slightly ridiculous twin bore things with much fuel, and these are this is my first stage. These are effectively side boosters. Then I've got a mainsail, and this is, so everything below here is to get me into orbit. And I am of the opinion that this is going to work. That I have enough to get me into orbit. Yeah, just about. Obviously we are going to see. Although I could in theory, because these aren't solid rocket boosters, I could in theory use throttling to make sure I don't go too fast. But I've in fact thrust limited them a tiny amount to keep them so their thrust to weight ratio is where I want it to be. We will see, I guess. After that, I've got a poodle. Now that should be me in orbit, and this poodle should be able to transfer me to the moon, and then it should, in theory, it's enough to land with, but I don't want to land, obviously. Not with this get-up, no. But I want to do enough to get into what's suborbital. When I get into orbit, I'm going to want to stage those, because that's a contract that I've got. When I'm suborbitaling, I want to stage those, because that's a contract that I've got. And then I've got a get home stage, which is this little thing up here. It's only a Terrier, but when I put this into moon mode, take it off atmospheric and put it into body moon, that should have enough thrust to weight ratio. I guess we will see. So I'm not too bothered about the delta V calculations up here, because those 2 stages are not going to be firing in the atmosphere, so the delta V is irrelevant. For whether or not you get into orbit, and I should get into orbit with that. We will see, I guess. Yeah. So I've called this the Aluminium Rhinoceros. Whoa. This is the problem that every so often you bring up a dialog box and it actually takes the click to select the dialog box as a click on the spacecraft itself. I have discovered that there's a oh, for heaven's sake. Stupid thing. There is a downside to calling everything amusing names, like Aluminium Rhinoceros, which is when you load up the load menu. Cancel that actually. When you bring up the load menu, you're not quite sure what everything is. So you actually do start needing to put in a description. So let's give that one more save. I'm just going to show you the crew. Jebediah's piloting. I think it was Valentina who went to the moon. I can no longer remember. I've got a really bad memory, so I can't remember who it was. No, it wasn't. It was Bob, because he's got an almost... No, so it's Valentina who's going to go. Valentina's going to go. Suddenly realised Bob's got I was trying to work out, I couldn't remember who'd gone to the moon and who hadn't, but suddenly realised he's got a huge, great big, full experience bar. That is a bit of a hint. So Valentina's going to go. She's going to be piloting. These are my tourists. These first 6 are tourists. And then these two, this Bill and Bob, that's purely there because they don't currently have very much experience. Bob's clearly gone off on Earth flight at some point and hasn't even gone to orbit. But Bill hasn't done anything. I would like some more people with actual stats and skills and things. Let's see if this will actually...
And unfortunately, the game crashed at that point. But never mind, I eventually did manage to take off. And, very wobbly craft. This is now at ×4 speed. Because this is pretty much a standard orbit, except for the fact I really should have throttled down. I would have had a lot more control if I just throttled the thing down more than I did. In the end, as you can see, I do a full flip. And you can see the heating gauge is coming up. So I'm going so fast, I'm actually getting heating effects. So I really should have throttled down. I should have been... As I use fuel, obviously the weight goes down, so the thrust-to-weight ratio goes up, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But once I got rid of those ridiculous side boosters, everything worked fine. I was much more in control. But unfortunately, I was now very, very far off an equatorial orbit, which caused me some issues later on. But other than the fact that I now had to correct my launch profile, I had to kind of point a lot more up in order to raise my apoapsis quicker and stuff like that. Everything was much, much, much better from that point on. So it was mostly an ordinary orbit, apart from the slight flip in the middle there. I'm just having a quick check of my requirements. Normally I'd go for an orbit of about 70, 75, 80. But I've gone for an orbit of over 90 because that's what the contract for the hydraulic detachment manifold, I think it's called. The thing that's a radial decoupler but it's hydraulic, which is better because it's hydraulic. So I'm just getting myself into a vague orbit. I didn't quite have enough with my actual orbit stage, but that might be because I had a flip somewhere in the middle. So once I got myself into an orbit and I was in the right orbit, I just had to rearrange my staging and then stage the manifold, which I did eventually manage to do. There you go, bump, did that. So that's a contract done. And then it's all about trying to get to the moon, especially when my orbit is so very, very inclined. So I just tried tons of things. I tried correcting my inclination right away, but that's obviously very expensive. Then I tried just forgetting about that. I spent quite a lot of time playing with my inclination. Then I just gave up on that and just went, whoomph. Right, send myself out. Actually went so far out I got an escape trajectory, which is not terribly handy. So I started playing with that, and then, can I get an encounter? Can I then adjust the encounter with a later maneuver node? Because you can do multiple maneuver nodes one after the other, but I think they're needlessly complicated. I mean, I certainly prefer just doing it the old-fashioned way. I also managed to get a crash because I accidentally, when I tried to change focus to the moon, I accidentally clicked an actual object, something around the moon. The crash happened in there. There's a brief edit which you probably may not have seen because it's so going fast. So I accidentally hit another item, and then when I swapped back, the game crashed. But then I just, did a standard chuck a whole bunch of Delta V in, just go straight prograde, and I got an encounter. But I was having difficulty maneuvering because, as always, I have made a great big, huge, long, heavy thing, and I don't have enough reaction wheel power to maneuver it properly. And at one point, I mean, right at the beginning, I was just spinning and spinning and spinning, and seemed to not get any control at all. So eventually I got onto vague control and was able to move towards my maneuver nodes. It actually got better and better. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's just because I just ended up... Because I was burning more and more and more fuel, so obviously the rocket became lighter. So I'm rearranging the staging, because I had to do that quite a bit. Because obviously, you know, I'm changing the staging in order to fulfill those contracts. And then that mucks up staging, you have to put it back again, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. No idea what I'm talking about at this point. I'm sure it was thoroughly interesting. And then it's all about hitting the burn and going to the moon. It should be happening fairly soon. There we go. And checking to make sure that I was getting a really accurate kind of lock on the maneuver node by going into the flight view and going into the IVA instead of EVA. So you can get you can zoom in on the nav ball that's actually in the command module and get very, very accurate. So I'm checking contracts again, seeing what I got. Specifically that I've got a whole bunch of people saying, yay, we went to the moon. Yay, we got into orbit, because that was part of what they wanted with their contracts. So here I'm, you know, about to get to the right place. Hurrah. Get to the moon. I spent a lot of time trying to get a really good encounter, but it was just... And at that point I was actually, you know, I was nearly hitting the moon, so now I'm just pointing the other way, and now I've got a really stupid, like, I think it's the distance between encounter and losing the moon was less than a minute, which is just not ideal. And of course I've got a big, huge, long, unwieldy craft that I have to maneuver to get the right... to go back to retrograde to kind of adjust that, so, oh, it's just a pain in the everything. But eventually I got something I was happy with, so I just went with that. And again, I'm going to bless the warp to next maneuver node being a part of the standard Kerbal Space Program now. I have now installed Kerbal Alarm Clock, which you can actually see. But having warp to maneuver node just being part of the standard kit is just so nice. And I don't know why I made that noise there. That was a very strange noise. And yeah, so, you know, I just need to get myself a proper orbit. And now back to old me, who is going to explain what happens next.
Okay, so I need to arrange for a suborbital around the moon somehow in a way that does not crash my spacecraft. And that gives me enough time. So I'm not quite sure what a suborbital is, according to this. Well, I'm fairly convinced that if I landed on the moon and then took off, I'd be in suborbital. But I do not know if I would count as suborbital I don't know what counts as suborbital when you start from outside. You know. That's a nice. Oh, I've got some. So I've got a chunk of money now. So that's another 100k or so. So questions. Now, the obvious thing is just to put this. Until the periapsis height is like that. Like literally just under the surface. And then, I've got ages. I've got 8, so I don't need to do anything just now. I'm fine. Nothing's going to go wrong. I'm just going to be in this orbit forever, and I can get out of this orbit anytime I feel like it. So that's fine. So now, what I want to do is I want to arrange for this to be the next stage. Right. So I can now stage that, and if I can get this counting as suborbital, I'm fine.
So that is the next stage, getting myself suborbital. And my cunning plan is, as you can see, to do a burn that will theoretically have me crashing into the surface of the moon. Hope that counts as suborbital. Hope that my long-wieldy craft can turn around from retrograde, which is what I need to do to go suborbital, then turn prograde such that I'll be able to raise my periapsis so I don't actually smash into the ground. And I'm doing this, I'm putting a maneuver node down there for timing to get an idea of how long it's going to take me and which way I want to point and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's all about whether or not I'm going to be able to do that in time, because my craft is so unwieldy, I am not sure it's going to be able to turn around in time to do that. So I am quick saving, just in case.
This is a stupid plan. This is a stupid plan. Why do I come up with these stupid plans? Because Kerbal Space Program is just designed for stupid plans. All I can come up with. Oh man, this is gonna go horribly wrong. I got a really light engine to take me home as well, because again, I'm just kind of assuming that Kerbal Engineer is right about it having enough thrust to weight ratio. I'm just kind of desperately hoping it's right. So I'm going to do the maneuver, then I'm really going to immediately try and go for prograde, and then desperately hope this lights up, and then I can do the test. Stupid plan. This is a stupid plan for stupid people. Well, it counts as suborbital. Right. So I've got 12 minutes to get to the next node, and 12 minutes. I'm just going to go with going prograde. Is that right though? Is that what I'm going to want? I think it is. Pretty sure it is. So I've got all of that. So that's all good. I've actually now. I think. It's going to wait until I'm going to have to wait until I actually get to get them back, and that's what's going to actually get them to that's going to actually complete the contract totally. But that's another chunk of money. I'm now on 1.5 million, whereas I was on 1.3 before. So even with the 93, I think, thousand or so that this cost me, not done too badly.
And so now it's just a case of waiting and hoping that I can get below the 12,000 kilometers that I need for the contract, and then hit prograde fast enough to get out again. So now it's all time acceleration and stuff.
I'm gonna just D-time warp and let Valentina put that. Valentina's so happy. We've got some slightly concerned folk here. This is the ride you asked for. I don't know what you're complaining about.
And back into time warp. So this is time for speed, and then, you know, the time warp itself. Actually, not time warping that much. I'm just kind of waiting the clock down, and again, I'm still not sure. Am I going to be able to get this done in time? It's a worry. I'm currently heading to crash, so
Right, so I've actually gone beyond the node that I planned on. That's interesting. That's okay. So I don't think I need that. I don't need that node anymore. It's just going to be, I'm going to go prograde when this hits 12, well, when that lights up and I hit space and it counts, and then I'm just going to hit prograde. And I should have enough time still to not smash my face into the ground and kill 9 Kerbals at once, which would be an awfully large number to murder simultaneously. I'm going down quite fast now. Ah, and it's night time. Why is it always night time? I could have waited until it was daytime. I could have done lots of things, but I didn't because I was concentrating on the mission. Lights on spacecraft. Put lights on spacecraft so you can see what the hell is going on. Especially if you're doing it in a visual medium like this. It's darkness. There's also a thing you can do to put up the ambient level, which I might start doing, seeing as everything happens at night. Okay, we're getting closer. Only another 2 kilometers to go. I'm currently plummeting towards the ground at 55 meters per second, give or take. Currently over the Midlands. Oh, keep that. Okay, very close now. Oh, we can actually see just as I finished complaining about it being at night all the time. Right, counting down. My heart rate is ridiculous at the minute. Tourists are now going to be able to start seeing the lunar surface below them, which is nice, but I don't care. I'm going to keep this shot because it looks quite nice. Get stuff. Right.
And with that, I have succeeded. That is a successful mission. So, as I set my orbit for home, I am going to say thanks very much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you've been enjoying these videos. Feel free to find Nearly Enough Dice at nearlyenoughdice.com, and we're also on Twitter and Facebook. Just search for Nearly Enough Dice and you'll find us there. And until next time, reach for the stars.